So I need to preface this video by saying that the first thing I'm going to say has a direct relation to the second thing that I'm going to say. So the first thing that I need to say is that my wife had a miscarriage, which is a very, very traumatic experience, and I'm sorry if you or somebody you know has experienced that. Would not recommend. So the reason I tell you that first bit is to tell you the second bit, which is that as we have been coping and dealing with this thing, I didn't have to, but I've opted to tell my students about, number one, that it happened, but number two, about the steps that I'm taking and that we're taking moving forward. So I canceled class, and when I came to class, I told my students at the end yesterday that I might be needing to reschedule class or work around the schedule depending on what's happening with life. And as I told them about the miscarriage, I really want to emphasize the second point, the thing that I'm really trying to get to, which is understanding and unpacking mental health. Now, some of us look at mental health and you hear me talk about mental health and the importance of mental health and you go, of course. Now, if you're that person, you can stop watching now because I'm just going to go into the importance of talking about it for the rest of the video. So the reason that I bring up mental health at all is for two reasons. Reason one is that when I was growing up and when I sought mental health help and therapy when I was younger, when I was 17, 18 years old as a freshman in college, I was met with a lot of confusing messages about what was quote unquote wrong with me. And that always sort of stuck with me now as people have conveyed and have entrusted in me that they are also seeking help. And that by me talking about it as a person in power, as a faculty member, talking about it in front of students, making myself vulnerable, it's become easier for students to talk about it with their peers and with their family members, because if Professor Blake can go and get therapy and go seek help, then it wouldn't be weird for me because he has everything figured out, which I don't, but students oftentimes think things like that. And the second part of it is when talking about therapy and mental health, number one, it's horribly stigmatized, and that seeking mental health should just be a normal thing that people do, just like you do with diet and exercise and nutrition and drinking enough water and sleeping enough. I mean, mental health and taking care of yourself is a critically important part of just human life in general. And so when I think about therapy, some people talk about it as though it's a thing to fix you. And that's wrong. And that you do it until you're done with it and then you move on with your life. And that's also wrong. I think therapy for a lot of people is an ongoing process. We might work through specific types of trauma at what point, but then for the rest of it, it might manifest itself in different ways. And so I hate to think that therapy is just a thing that people do until they're fixed or until the episode is over, but instead this is just a lifelong journey. And if you're somebody who's helping me along with that journey, who's talking to me, who's giving me some sort of social support, who's doing any of those things, I really appreciate you. I'm sorry if this is a topic that people feel uncomfortable talking about, but historically, women have had to deal with topics about their health and their own reproductive system in silence. We see that a lot still in 2019, but I want you to know that you should feel comfortable talking about mental health, right? You should feel comfortable being yourself. You should be comfortable being vulnerable. And if you're not now, then let's figure out how to get you to that point. So thanks for listening, and I hope to talk to all of you soon.